A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I am your humble host, Mike Ergoni, and joining me, as always, the ZX3 to my Imperial Warbot, it's John Campbell.
Oh, hello, everybody. Oh, man, if there's one thing we love, it is droid-based stories in Star Wars. They literally are always the best.
Never, ever bad, or superfluous, or
Nope.
really unwanted, or ramble on for too long, or focus on characters that most people find annoying.
Most beloved part of Star Wars, no question. Just ask that worn-out Droids VHS tape I had as a kid.
Yeah.
That I definitely watched more than the once. Did you have that? Must have had the animated
100% I had that.
where it was like, but it was just like, well, because I need all the Star Wars things, and then it'd be like, that wasn't. I think that was an early example of my realization of like, oh, maybe this isn't all amazing. That and the Ewok TV movies were like, okay, there's bad Star Wars.
Yeah, and the Ewok TV movies especially were like, they tricked you into thinking they were kind of good because they were live action and they were more Star Wars and we didn't know any better.
Right, that was the thing, was that, once again, kids, believe it or not, there was a time when we had to, like, scrape and scrimp for Star Wars. We had to, like, dig for it. And so it was just like, oh my God, there are Ewok movies? Well, this is kind of a thing that I love, so it's great.
Yes. We are, of course, talking about issue number 47 of 1977's Marvel Star Wars comic book, the original Star Wars comic book. This particular issue was released in May of 1981, so actually predates the Droids animated film by quite some time.
Yeah. Do you think, because they saw this and went, oh, I think there's money
We can do a
here.
better pass on this.
Yeah, trust me. Oh, yeah, it's going to be embarrassing like that comic book. Yikes. Yeah. Also, so this is now a full year after Empire.
Yeah. And boy, how the mighty have fallen.
Hold on to those remembrances of Empire Strikes Back, kids.
Yeah, no, not to be too like glib about it, but like, and obviously the Empire adaptation took a big chunk of time. It was actually being released like way later, so like it wasn't even concurrent with the movie being released. But
No.
we're now dealing with like truly the fallout of Empire Strikes Back, and this is what we're getting. Obviously, the book is in the middle of a big shakeup right now. We have a creative team that is going to sound very familiar, but this is in the midst of a lot of them getting rotated out of this book.
Right. And I would say, having read all of these as we do, probably for the best to maybe get some fresh blood in there.
But for this issue, our creative team, of course, as always, we have Archie Goodwin on writing, Carmine Infantino on pencils, Gene Day on inks, Glennis Oliver Nayween on colors, and Rick Parker on letters, with a certain shooter in the distance and a certain Jones who would eventually become a certain Louise Simonson on editing.
I love that Glennis Ween and Louise Jones, their names both change.
Well, look, just to keep it simple and easy to track.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it
People get
very
married,
easy.
People change their names. We just know them. They have cemented themselves as different entities in our brains because of their history in comic books.
Correct. And also, it's like, it's just so interesting that they, I'm going like, maybe let Louise Simonson write the thing because she's better than maybe what I'm reading here.
We'd learn that on X Factor in a couple of years, honestly.
So yes, it's the droid issue, folks.
Yeah,
it's what you've been waiting for. All droids, all the time.
Let's bring up this cover here because it's droids. Look at the droids.
There is no escape from Droid World.
Artoo, I don't care if the droids against our escaping are 25. If the odds against our escaping are 25,215 to 1, just keep running.
Classic.
Yeah, a striking Frank Miller cover we have here.
Yeah, Yeah, the finest work Mr. Miller ever did, really, I think.
Look, if the robots and if the other droids in this issue looked anything like the menagerie that Frank Miller has depicted here, I think
Yeah,
I would have found this issue a lot more exciting.
there's a guy with axe blades for
I love
hands.
axe hands. Axe hands are great.
That, that's cool. There's a robot that's like all spikes. Like, yeah, none of the robots in this are actually as threatening as what I'm
I
looking
love the
at
green
here.
one just above R2 that is literally just holding a knife. He's like Roberto
The
from.
most Frank Miller droid you can get, right? The guy is just like, yeah, I don't have any special abilities. I'll just cut you.
Isn't the robot's name Roberto in Futurama, the one who just has the knife?
Yeah, yeah, yes, exactly. It's exactly that guy. Yeah. There's another one who's just got a gun. Like it's a nasty group
Well, and then
here.
you've got like the little one that's just a floating head with a laser, and you've got one in the
Yep.
back there that's just two legs and a weird trash can tromping after him.
There's another guy. Oh, there's a guy in there with a spiked ball like mace for a
Oh yeah,
hand.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Frank Miller clearly had a
Yeah,
lot of fun
man.
just drawing this weird little gang that.
And I'm sure it was literally just told they're on a planet of killer droids.
Yeah,
Go.
and look, I enjoy that. Again, I wish any of these were in the issue.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. 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 We also talk about R2 is doing. It's a very weird pose on R2 because normally you think of him rolling the
So
other
this
way.
is his Naruto running speed pose, John.
Yes. Yep. And also trying to imagine Threepio booking it is always funny. Have you ever seen Threepio move with any kind of speed?
Imagining Threepio doing something like a sprint is just, it does not compute.
No, he's not built for that.
Like, the most momentum and speed Threepio could ever build up is when he falls down a flight of stairs or something.
That's it, exactly. 3PO must be hurled about to move quickly anywhere from place to place, right? Like he was moving faster just being carried on Chewie's back. But here he is booking it, man.
Yeah. Okay. Right off the bat, I think we have to, like, roll back on our harsh criticism a little bit just because, like, you and I are coming at this from decades worth of opinions that the droid stories are always going to be ancillary.
Sure.
I think we have to reset our brains a little bit because this is maybe the first, like, truly droid-centric story that we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And maybe this sets the template for them all being pointless and annoying and often the worst stuff in Star Wars.
Look, as much as I love the Clone Wars series, there are certain arcs and episodes that I will still skip when I
Oh, yeah.
see that it's a 3PO-centric
Oh,
or
God.
R2-centric episodes.
You have
There are
to.
those
For your own
like
sanity.
4 episodes in season 5, a season which is otherwise phenomenal because you get like all the Savage and Maul stuff, all of the like Mandalorian
Yep.
stuff. You get the whole like Ahsoka leading the younglings to find their crystals on Ilum stuff,
Yeah.
and then there's just 4 episodes
Yep.
that's just R2 and a bunch of other droids rolling through the fucking desert with a weird slug man yelling at them.
I love that show's insistence on no matter how good it got, there was always just going to be some shit in there too.
The last
Like, I
season
don't
that
think
came
there's
out
a
on Disney
season-
Plus that's just like, okay, 2
Yeah.
phenomenal arcs. We're gonna set up the Bad Batch, this cool devil may care rogue clone group. We're gonna have the Siege of Mandalore and the after effects of Order 66, but sandwiched in between.
Yeah. It just can't. It's just like no. We got to get some shit in here too. It just the commitment to it, man. You almost got to respect it. If I also didn't hate it. at
Well,
the same
and that's
time.
why, like, I feel like I'm more accepting of these comic books in some ways, because while it is, like, that concentrate, like, if you squeeze this out and bottle
Yeah.
it, that's what we get in this comic book a lot of the time, but it is in the best traditions of Star Wars.
Oh yeah, Star Wars always has garbage. There's always garbage. It's just true. I mean, and I think also being a Trek fan that I am, a lot of garbage over there too. A lot of trash over there. That being said, if anybody outside of the fandom for that says anything, how dare you? It's all a masterpiece. Only I get to make fun of Star Trek.
Look, I'm still, like, hip deep in my Voyager rewatch. I think I'm on
Oh,
season
God.
6 right now.
And there's some great Voyager, and there is some god awful.
The fact that
voice.
7 of 9 isn't in the show until the start of season 4 was one of the biggest, like, wait, hold on, what? During my rewatch.
Yeah, and those first 3 seasons are, once again, there's some high highs, but there are the lowest lows of maybe any Star Trek show.
We all
in those
remember
first
the
3
Kazon,
seasons.
right? That memorable villain faction?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, not to turn this into that, but yes, Voyager took a long time to be like, here's our new big bad. What? Everybody hates it? Oh, no. They tried a few. They tried to have a few before they were just like, fine, it's the Borg as well.
Yeah,
We're also doing
first
Borg.
it was the Kazon, then it was those weird, like, organ stealer guys, and then it was the Predator knockoffs.
Yeah, the Vidians. It was the Vidians, and then it was, what is this, like Species 847?
They're actually cool.
Yeah.
And they've been used sparingly, so I think that benefits them.
Yes. But yes. I liked the Vidians more than the Kazon. The organ stealers were at least in concept cool. In execution, left a little, a little desired there. Anyway, back to the other Star franchise.
Wars, yes, Droid issue. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it's Droid World.
Dropped in right in media race as Droid World.
Yeah. Boy, look at that. That is some 80s sci-fi graphics, isn't it, for Droid
This
World?
is some Judge Dredd shit right here.
We mentioned Judge Dredd, and I do think there's no question these people are reading a lot of 2000 AD, and that's cropping in here. More so than it exists in like any other Star Wars media. Because there's not a lot of crossover in those styles but this comic really brings things like Valance, things like a lot of the Droid World stuff.
You'll see more and more of it in Marvel, especially through the 80s, to the point where like the original introduction of the TVA is just straight up a Judge Dredd like spoof. Knockoff.
Well, and it makes sense because I said I think that's what a lot of comics people were reading. Like the cool thing in comics at this time was the 2000 AD comics.
But yeah, we're thrown into it as this huge tank that you expect to see rolling through the streets of a megacity is chasing R2 and 3PO.
Yep. I mean, yeah, this straight up does look like a Dredd villain. The robot body sticking out of a massive tank.
With, I guess,
as he's saying, faster, run them down, blast them, destroy them.
Faster, pussycat, faster.
Well, yeah. Who is he directing that to? By the way?
I'm got to assume it's the two little astromechs to either side of him that have like Barca loungers on the side of this tank.
I have a lot of questions about how this whole thing runs. So there's like one central droid that sort of runs the show, and then two astromechs that also operate.
For all we know, the tank itself is a droid.
I like that idea that he's talking to the tank. There's a couple of mounted machine guns on the side of it there.
Like,
straight up, it's like 50 caliber, right? They're not even
expect
trying.
Those kinds of guns to show up at like a crossroads in Germany in 1944.
They're very, yeah. I mean, we've talked about a lot of Star Wars weapons are like rebuilds of World War II era weapons, mostly lying around studios and stuff like that. These they don't even bother to try to like disguise them. Yeah, so they're blasting away at R2. They're fedowing and bawaming.
I thought the Bavam was a little gratuitous, personally.
It's a bit much. You don't want to bust out a Bavam, you know. You didn't see, like, 66 Batman, they held that for, like, season finales, man. You didn't use a Bavam early
I have
on.
the two laser blasts, which are effectively the same gun, making two different noises. That's all I'm asking.
I love that idea where there's like, oh, no. Come on, man. We gotta give these kids their money's worth.
That's
Rick
Rick Parker
yeah,
just
once
having
again,
fun is what that is.
Oh, yeah. And actually, there is a lot of that in here. But yes, once again, 3PO in a running pose. Super weird.
Look, 3PO is going to jog. The more interesting one is on the next page when you have him like vaulting over R2.
Yeah, here we go. Let's go to that here. And of course, these two be bickering.
I do love 3PO and R2 bickering, but I love it sparingly.
Agreed.
Right?
That's key. They are great side
They're
characters.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Great. I love them. And them as the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in Star Wars. Love them. No, that's the thing. It's like I love 3PO and R2. They're so key to Star Wars to me. Don't make them the center of the thing, though. Oh my God, you can't do that. They're not designed for it. I mean, number one, R2 can't be really. Like, I mean, he's just, you know.
Yeah, he's a.
It's like making the main character's dog the main character of a story, right? Like,
look, and they've definitely. I know Ace the Bat Hound is some people's favorites, so
yes. I mean, no, and look, that's the thing we do. Always with the caveat of this on this show, everything we talk about, there is some contention that this is their favorite part of the universe. I know that,
but
so we don't mean any personal
like
offense.
The Pizza Dog issue of Hawkeye is one of our favorites, so I don't.
Yes, yeah. I mean that was very good.
but
I'm not. You know, I'm not. Once again, no bash on these
he's
guys.
not a pizza dog.
Yeah. That's the shirt we need to make from this show. 3PO is not a pizza dog.
Well, look, when 3PO basically has to like have this running monologue, I'm not going to read every line of dialogue 3PO has in this issue.
No, because we'll be here all day.
A, you might be able to tell by the recording my voice is a little shot right now to do some reason sickness.
Yeah.
And B, we'd be here all day.
He talks so he is nonstop jabbering through this whole issue.
This issue has one of the classic Archie Goodwin problems of everyone has to describe what's happening at every moment, and because 3PO's the only character who can kind of talk, that becomes all him.
Yeah. I like when he says oof.
That it raises so many questions. Like, okay, is this finally the issue where we have to confront like Star Wars droids and the problematic?
You know what? I was reading this last night and thought, especially later on when we get into the cyborg guy who runs Droid World, this book is going to force us to talk about the thing we dare never speak of:
droid ethics in Star Wars.
Yeah. And this book, all it does is complicate the matter even more.
But I guess we'll get to there when we get there, because as the droids are running, they're running from this tank thing. They run to the edge of a just endless abyss of fire. They basically find a door to hell.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what and just the chains hanging down. It's so grim.
One of my favorite, like kind of pitch room jokes about movies. You'll see these sometimes where it's like people being like trying to poke fun at the logic of films, is one from Alien, where it's like, okay, so we got the chain room, right? Imagine the number of chains we got in the chain room, double it, and triple it, now quadruple it. Now, you gotta know, we gotta run a slight breeze through that chain room so the chains are moving slightly, and make sure those chains are wet. I'm telling you, they better be wet chains.
All I know is that the function of the Nostromo was very contingent on wet chains.
And so here we have the opposite. We have a fire chain room. We got chains dangling from the ceiling, a lot of fire, and for some reason it's in the middle of a spaceship.
Make the chains even hotter.
Like, what possible purpose does this absolute, like, it literally looks like hell. It's just chains and fire and darkness.
And heat, wicked and intense, plays on the backs of the two rebel droids. Wicked and intense heat.
I will say, in the bottom right panel on this page, with like the shadowed of 3PO, like backlit by the fire, going, "Oh no!" Like that's pretty dramatic.
It is. I wish anything else, because I mean, this does throw you in immediate res. I was reading this last night, going, all right, how the hell did these two get here? And then the fact that it didn't immediately jump to previously on, like when I turned the page, I'm like, are we not going to get that? No, of course we do.
But a further depiction of hell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it is just like, oh, wait, do you guys want to see more fire and chains? Turn the page.
Just like, this is some weird, like, MC Escher Hieronymus Bosch, but with robots shit.
And once again, Archie Goodwin going on, heat that rises from the white-hot core of a man-made world.
So, at the center of this man-made world is a room full of chains and fire with just doors at varying levels leading into it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's truly the stuff of like non-Euclidean nightmares.
I know. Hey, kids. And it is just like, hey, kids, you love the droids. Here's your droid issue. They're gonna die.
But previously,
Previously on Star Wars. Archie Goodwin, I think we were talking a little bit, or not Archie Goodwin, Infantino drawing this, of course. We were talking a little, were his renderings getting better? Nope, not anymore, because this Luke Skywalker looks weird as hell.
yeah, we're going to backslide a little bit with Infantino in this issue. He's on the way out, and he's just kind of given up all fucks.
Because I gotta say, this is just the beginning of weird Luke faces.
Yeah, he's just like the shape of it's wrong. He's got the classic angry Infantino eyebrows. Just like
And he's got like weird, like wrinkly shading that makes him look like he's like a hardened middle-aged man.
well, there's a little that we can't blame that entirely on Infantino. Gene Day is clearly doing some crime here.
The inks are not helping on that by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. But yes, the expression is, why is he so pissed? I know this is like, actually, no, they're not upset. They found a thing. They should be happy about this. I also like the note about, well, AT-ATs is not just part of the parlance of Star Wars at this point.
It's all-terrain armored transport. Thank you. But
yeah,
Louise is
AKA walkers, because I think that's all they call them in the movie.
They just say walkers.
They actually say AT. Yeah. So now it's like we retroactively decided these are called AT-ATs, and just to put this in your mind, that's
what it says in the toy box, John. That's important.
Yeah, there it is. Yes, perfect. Kids, yeah, AT-ATs available at Sears.
So this is Luke and some rebel guy. I don't know who this guy is.
I like rebel.
And they're going over a scrapped new Imperial warbot.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, warbot. Now that sounds cool.
Looks like a giant R2-D2 with a gun for a face.
I know. It's just like we worked real hard on our warbot.
Look, we'll get like combat droids ad infinitum later in Star Wars.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, of course.
We'll talk about that a little bit later in this issue, actually, when somebody actually mentions the Clone Wars. But
yes, which anytime they mention the Clone Wars before the prequels, I'm always like, and those are what again?
To you, what are
in this? Yeah, what do you think the Clone Wars are right now? And so yeah, they're going like, this would be great talking to 65-year-old, Luke, this would be great if we get a schematic on these things. Oh, God.
Yeah. Apparently one of these things was deployed against the rebellion, and they managed to take it down, but they blasted it so bad that they need to get a schematic on it so they know how to, like, take it down.
But hey, Threepio's like, hey, R2, our time to shine.
Yeah, so we have this next page where Threepio is going on about like, oh, if we do this right, this will be a real feather in our cap. Has Threepio ever struck you as a guy with an ego?
No, nor ambition. Like, maybe they'll make me a captain. Like, what could Threepio at his core?
Bless you.
Is a translator, right? He's a diplomatic droid.
And this is where we get into like the very beginnings of like weird droid ethics, right? Because immediately you're circling around this idea of like, okay, to what extent are they programmed to have wants and desires?
Well, because he thought this job is certain to earn us a commendation from the Rebel Alliance. Maybe we'll get one of those sweet medals.
Or a warm lubrication bath at the very least.
And number one, are they not regularly? I guess they're not regularly getting lubrication.
Look, we gotta save those.
I don't know how
for the X-wings and the A-wings and the B-wings. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of questions because one of the only times we really see that is in the first movie, of course. The lubricate, but it is sort of a thing like how necessary are those? And then yes, the idea that droids feel pleasure from that further complicates Hey man, once again, sorry, this issue is forcing me to consider things that I don't want
Okay,
to.
this is how we Maslow's hierarchy of droid needs, right? If droids are serving their function, they are receiving like some kind of positive input loop in their circuitry.
Yeah. Right.
The better they can serve their function, the
Right.
more like efficient they are, the better that feedback loop becomes. So by being properly maintained, lubricated, what have you, they can more efficiently serve that function, thus increasing their appreciation for their existence, I guess. But then again, we start in on like, okay, but where does that end? Is that just programming, or are they actually like,
And also that he specifically is like warm.
yeah, can he feel
Like,
temperature?
ooh,
I guess he would have to,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, but it's like, but once again, but then that adds to the pleasure of it to him too, where he's like, ooh, as opposed to like, oh, it's cold today. It's not as satisfying of a lubrication bath. Even though if it is just about I'm efficiently lubricated as a machine, which gives me, once again, you did this comic. You fucking did this. I don't want to think about this.
But okay, R2 is poking around on the insides of this warbot with his weird like head stick that shows up only in the comics.
Okay. Yeah, I know. We've talked about this before. Here's another thing too: is Threepio's the one going about this gives a commendation. What is he adding to this? R2's doing all the work, and he's just going, "Yeah, there, I'll supervise, and I'll get a commendation."
3PO is classic fucking middle management in this issue.
Totally. He's like, "You R2, you do all the work, and I'll reap the benefits."
Well, again, 3PO is the one who can talk, so he can really edge in on all of R2's hard work.
And whether or not who can understand R2 and when they can understand R2 changes a lot.
Yeah. So, 3PO is given R2
Anyway,
some
though,
advice, but that advice is bad because as soon as R2 follows it, there's an explosion that knocks R2 off this little gantry he's on.
sends him clonging to the
It's a good clone.
ground.
I like that clone.
Don't sass me.
Because, yeah, R2's just been exploded and he lets out a Zadida Verdup blop.
Which actually, I gotta say, we've talked about this. Goodwin has gotten better at writing droid dialogue.
Like R2's
Because
sounds,
that
yeah.
actually, the Dita blop, actually, you can go like, okay, I can imagine what those sounds coming out of R2 would be.
Oh, I just...
And he's just like, don't you backtalk me, you little bastard.
This is, you contrary little circuit breaker.
I swear, I know I'm doing nothing, but come on, man.
How could you possibly believe I meant to probe higher into the warbot's innards when obviously I meant raise the lift higher to scan another section?
I love a 3PO who's just like, you fucking idiot.
So
Yeah, God. I know.
it turns out whatever they accidentally did here turned the warbot to slag. And boy, from the side, this thing
Also-
looks like a Dalek.
It really does. A Dalek that's now pouring out cotton candy or just like mashed up bubble gum. My God.
Oh no, they've unleashed
I
the
also
big
love.
league chew inside the warbot.
Oh no, this was the booby trap that the Empire left for us. The whole ship will be consumed by goo. So I also love Luke. What were these guys doing, by the way? Luke and this other guy come in, and they're just like, "Oh no, what do you droids get
We're
up
having
to?"
coffee in the break room.
Yeah, because at a certain point, I am like, "You guys did leave these droids unattended."
R2 I would trust. I would trust R2 with this work.
Yeah. You get 3PO out of there. He's the bad influence.
He's a translator. He doesn't need to be here.
I don't. Once again, it's a thing. A little bit in the movies, but really in the comic, it is always like, why are they bringing him everywhere? Like I understand he does. He often. I don't know why he's here. Shouldn't he be with Leia on some whatever she's up to diplomatically?
Yeah, and in the next issue he will be.
Serve her better than... I get around.
Yeah, but right now he has to follow this slowly transforming into Anya Taylor-Joy Luke Skywalker as his eyes get farther and farther apart.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Oh man, talk about it. If they need a reboot, I'd watch. Anya Taylor-Joy is Luke
Hey.
Skywalker. Hey, man. Well, I'll put butts in seats. So, yeah, the Warbot's insides are fused now. There's no way to make schematics of that mess. God damn it, 3PO.
But there is...
And then once talk about middle management, he's just like, sorry, boss, we'll do anything to get your approval.
Yeah, well, I guess Luke ultimately has the say on whether or not this mission goes forward, but, like, the issue reads like 3PO is the one spearheading this.
God, which should never be the case.
Because eventually this other, like, rebel engineer is just like, look, there might be some... Look, we can't fix this, but I think I might know a guy.
And 3PO being kind of not 3PO is like, anything, I'll do anything.
Yeah, but...
Desperate 3PO.
Yes, but again, ultimately Luke would be the one to be like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
Right. And so, get ready. I don't know what this is. There's not on Taylor-Joy anymore because now he was interim. They got kind of the count. Horribly stung by bees, Luke Skywalker. Look at that. That swollen face on him. What is up there?
Look, Infantino can draw like two heads, and unfortunately, over the course of this issue, he swaps them out on top of Luke's shoulders consistently.
I know he can only draw two heads, and I've decided to give Luke both. Also, every time they say Cligson, once again, I did have to go Klingon. Oh no, Cligson,
because they're heading to a place called Cligson's Moon. So as opposed to in the original Star Wars, that is some moon, is what we'll see, but it is in fact a space station.
Yep, Cligson's Moon. Here we go. Also known as, let's turn the page, Droid World.
Yeah, look at this fucking sci-fi nonsense. I do love this. Like, look, sometimes Infantino skimps on the details, but this is not a page where he does that.
No, I do love, you can tell, we've been doing this now, you can tell when Infantino's excited about something. He loves Droid World.
It's like super over-designed. It looks like something out of Alien, honestly.
It really does. It doesn't, it's actually, it's kind of non-Star Wars-y. It's got a little bit more of that Yeager design.
It's described as something that was built like over time out of salvage, and it really looks like that. It's like a bunch of fucking hamster habit trails leading from section to section, none of which have a same like design philosophy. It's really good.
It's really good. Yeah, it's cool as hell. And I had some hope for this when they showed up at Droid World. Like, okay, all right.
Right off the bat, though, firing some warning shots.
Yeah, Droid World, not the most hospitable place. Not looking for guests.
No, absolutely. I mean, because, as Luke describes as they make their approach, built because the mechanical genius who built it from space salvage insists on surrounding himself strictly with robots.
Yes. Which folks, just hang on, because that's just the beginning of the weird droid politics of this. But yes, the guy who lives here only wants to be around robots.
Yeah, and look, if they were all Mastercom, I'd get it.
Oh, man. Mastercom.
This guy needs a Mastercom.
Now there was a droid. He really does. He's missing that. I think he'd be a much happier individual with a Mastercom.
Everyone would.
We all need a Mastercom in our life.
But no, we are introduced here to the guy firing the warning shots to this RoboCop-looking motherfucker.
Oh God! And you know what? They're ahead of the game. RoboCop's 5 years out, or 6 years out at this point. It's 81. So yeah, 6 years out from RoboCop, and yet somehow Officer Alex Murphy is in a galaxy far, far away.
Because we are introduced to Cligson of Cligson's Moon, who is a cyborg man. He looks like Alex Murphy when he takes the RoboCop helmet off, and it's just the face and the weird robot head.
One of the coolest effects ever in film, in my opinion. And I'm amazed at that makeup job. You're talking to Cligson, Rebel, and I suffered enough in the Clone Wars. Ooh, now what's this about? I don't remember this guy running around the Clone Wars. He must have been on a front we never saw on the show.
Well, okay. So, we don't know what Archie Goodwin thinks the Clone Wars is. But if we are to assume the Clone Wars is what we know it to be, then this guy becomes infinitely more interesting to me.
Oh, 100%. Because I don't think Goodwin can comprehend how complicated the Clone Wars actually will be once you get into them.
But, so, on base strokes, the Clone Wars is Galactic Republic, Army of Clones, versus Confederacy of Independent Systems, Army of Robots, right?
Right. And here's a guy who's a cyborg.
Who specifically says, more machine now than man, aha. And he is happy to cast my lot with the machines. Leave me in my droid world to peace. He's had enough of organics forever.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I would love to see in a modern version of this. If you were to actually build it from that, what if this guy was the face of a Jango Fett clone?
That would be interesting.
Somehow merged with machine.
But like, it really does imply to me that like this guy was on the side of the separatists, right? But he lived in a space where the droids actually did good on a world somewhere.
Ooh, now there's an interesting idea too.
I mean, they play with it a little bit in the show, right? This idea that like, okay, there is actually a legitimate like political entity behind the separatists that are just like, they're a bunch of independent systems that don't want to be a part of the Republic anymore, and they think the Republic is corrupt and a shadow of its former self, and they're absolutely correct, that they just don't know that they're being played both sides against the middle by Palpatine, right?
Right.
So this is a guy who, if we take what we know of the Clone Wars to be true, was probably a separatist, probably lived on a planet that, like, was attacked by the Republic, and so the droids were the one coming to his defense, not necessarily acting as the oppressor, as we saw primarily in the show.
Right.
Interesting concept.
Yeah. Unfortunately, none of that's explored here because it can't.
Again, Archie Goodwin has no idea what the Clone Wars are.
Yeah, and so, and I love that he's not really going to venture to try. But he's going to invoke it because it is part of it. But he definitely is like a thing that will be addressed later, hopefully.
One of the more interesting things in Star Wars is like the fire breaks that Lucas created for like where stories can go. For the longest time, people weren't really allowed to discuss the prequel era as we would become to know it, right? That's why you had to have things like the Old Republic come into existence.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, that's one of the fun things about what we're doing here and with Star Wars in general is watching how canon is built, right? Piece by piece, not necessarily in order that it's presented.
Right. And we're coming at it from this like wide view perspective of seeing the whole basically already built era. Like we have this contained zone of time that we have a very good idea of what happened between like episode 1 and episode 9 with some gaps in the middle there.
Yeah, because like now, even though they're still adding to it, the tracks are built, right? Like it's pretty clear this is where you start basically, and this is where it kind of ends. And within this, you're sort of just pushing the barriers a little bit, but everybody is pretty much agreed on massive key timeline stuff, and then it's about slotting in around those moments.
And this is being written at a time where none of that exists.
No, none of it basically. But it's all implied in the movies.
So when you have Obi-Wan saying, "My father and I fought in the Clone Wars," well, apparently that was a big deal. We don't know why or what it was.
I mean, as we've talked about, we grew up in a time when that was still just a line in that movie, and it always was like, the what now?
The theory that I always saw, like, when I was starting to get into Star Wars as a little kid was just like, oh, there was a bunch of people that got cloned and they were all fighting each other, right?
Yeah, right. And that, I mean, because that, and that also makes sense, like, right, if your mind spins that out. And I honestly don't think even George knew the full extent of what they were. people, I mean, and of course, we love George Lucas, but people way overestimate how much of this shit he had figured out. I think he had some broad strokes ideas.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But 3PO plays the old, like, oh, well, we're not welcome here. We got a droid that even you can't fix gambit of reverse psychology.
classic. Once again, maybe too savvy for 3PO?
Depends on the
Right, it's
yeah.
borderline. It's borderline. Yeah. And then of course it immediately the guy's like, whoa, 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 did you say a challenge? I love
But
a
if we're
challenge.
gonna do this, I've got 2 rules, and he goes on to explain. First, anything I fix, I get to keep. Second, no
Yeah.
organics, droids only.
Yeah. Yeah. Take a hike, Skywalker.
So this is our excuse for Luke and his weird, ever-shifting face to get the hell out of this book.
Yeah. The excuse of what everyone wants, less Luke Skywalker in a Star Wars book.
We also have a transition in this like couple of pages here. If we go back to when R2 and 3PO are like fixing the droid, we see that 3PO's dialogue boxes are white, and then as the issue goes on, eventually his dialogue boxes become gold. That's a weird like lettering coloring shift that happens.
Yeah, consistency on that stuff is weird. And we've seen that stuff in here before. And of course, everything is being done by hand at this point, which is always that, you don't have because now, of course, we can go to, I mean, up to, we've even seen where print issues differ from digital issues because they can still fix it for the digital issue going forward.
Or like trade paperback runs will have fixed things that were different in the single issue.
With the digital nature of everything now, you can always keep correcting, all through every release.
So
I do love the very sitcom thing of Luke going, of course, you and R2 have a knack for getting in trouble.
what could happen to 2 droids on a world of droids?
You're the odd couple of Star Wars, so...
I mean, this does have a kind of like a sitcom opening, right? Of just like the...
It really does.
How did we get into this mess?
It was your fault, not mine. Wait, yeah. And yes, him just going, but how much trouble could you 2 get into? And then it goes to them running for, a hard cut to that. That's where it should cut to them like, oh dear.
Oh, hell no.
Well, so here they come onto to Droid World. And what the hell is this?
Well, that's the warbot, and it's being dragged away by a flatbed truck droid.
Yeah, the flatbed truck droid is what I was specifically indicating. Is like the fact that there's like a guy on the front of this. Okay.
Look, why not make all your heavy machinery a droid in the Star Wars universe? Like, it removes like user error if your forklift is a droid.
Yeah, but then you got to listen to that guy. Like, that's the problem with Star Wars. Everything is talking and has an opinion.
I would say it depends. Like, one of my favorite like weird droids is in the first season of The Mandalorian when they have like the lava gondola and that huge like R2 unit with the arms and legs with just like all he's there to do is like push with a pole in the lava gondola.
Well, I do. When you start getting into that and the idea of you're making a droid for a single task, this guy just does this, and this one just does this, and this one, that stuff is fascinating to me. Where it's like I'll get 20 droids and they'll each do one
It's
thing.
the fine line between like, okay, if we just have a robot, like a machine that does a single task, like in perfect example, Attack of the Clones, we have a giant factory building droids. Droids building droids. How novel. But
of course,
where do you draw the line between a machine that like just does a thing based on programming and a thing that has an opinion about what it does?
it's a living.
And like
A world I don't even want to begin to step into the politics of the Flintstones, but
again, like it gets into the weird, like wiggy, moral gray areas of droids in Star Wars, where it's like it seems like droid technology is so available that you can literally like make a droid out of anything, and that seems like the easiest option to most people.
It does, and to the point where it's actually surprising we don't see more droids, even as many as there are. It does feel like if they're that abundant and easy and efficient, we should see droids near
And
constantly.
we do, depending on the setting. We go to Coruscant, we see droids all over the
Yeah.
place. They're driving taxis, they're like serving hors d'oeuvres, but you get out into the Outer Rim, and suddenly we have bartenders who say those droids aren't welcome here.
Yeah, well, that's also very fascinating. I mean, of course, like, thanks a lot, comic. Now we're talking about this, but yeah, the idea of like the persecution of them
Yeah.
too is kind of fascinating.
Well, this comic has sort of already dealt with that with Valance, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and then something that the comic has gotten into, but a lot of Star Wars doesn't as much. Cyborgs.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, clearly, like, depending on your scale of cybernetics, there ranges anything from Luke has a cybernetic hand to this guy is just a person face on a robot body.
Right. And smack in the middle, Darth Vader.
Well, he's more machine now than man.
That's true. I guess he is the thing, but he's less machine than this guy.
Presumably.
Well, I mean, what we've seen of at least what I know now, like there's more organic parts when they pull Anakin out of that goo in Rogue One.
True. He's still
And there is on
he
this
still
guy.
has a big chunk of his middle. He's got a gooey person
Yeah,
center.
This guy appears to just be a face.
Yeah, yeah. And there are like certain other entities in Star Wars we've seen that are like there are those weird spider droids in Jabba's palace that are just like a brain in a canister.
Well, and then there's the insanity that is General Grievous,
Sure. Yeah, Grievous, absolutely.
who's basically just organs hanging inside of a robot
But
skeleton.
he's also got like organic bits in his face a little bit.
Yeah, that guy. Still one of my favorite designs in all of Star Wars. General Grievous. Is
I have
awesome.
mixed feelings about Tales of the Empire, but there's a great bit with Grievous in that.
As there should be. Grievous is great. Anyway, so we're on Droid World.
Yeah, we get introduced.
Step lively, you two, to the examining chamber.
Yeah, because we get introduced now to a big pink droid who isn't Master Com, and I was sad.
I know, more Mastercom, man.
He does have big rippling robot pecs, which I appreciated because like
but no control
but
nipples.
no control nipples, and he's got like a weird half stormtrooper helmet thing for a face,
Yeah.
and this is ZX3.
Yep. ZX3, folks, get ready. Your new favorite character. Toys available at Sears.
Yeah, so we get Cligson saying like, "Hey, we'll prepare this droid. ZX3, get the restraining bolts off of these two droids so they can finally be liberated." And this is where we get into
Okay.
the real.
God
wiggy
damn it! Here's where
morale.
we have to talk about it. Because get the restraining bolts off of these, and Threepio going, "No, we like being slaves."
Well, okay,
Is basically what he's saying, right?
but we
Come
already
on.
know they're neither R2 nor 3PO have restraining bolts.
Yeah.
So
So what is he talking about?
what he's talking about is that he is basically saying to Cligson, "We're willingly working with the rebellion and Luke Skywalker. We love those guys. They're great."
Yeah.
Cligson
But they're still our masters.
can't really wrap his head around that because, again, it's this idea of free will and servitude, and serving a purpose by choice isn't inherent to the droid lived experience.
Yeah. And I like that he's like, "I'm sorry, droids who like working for people, get these fuckers in front of me. I gotta see this shit." That's what he says. He goes, "I gotta look at this firsthand, man. This is crazy talk."
So now we have to talk, I think, about the nature of restraining bolts and how fucked up they are.
Yep.
So we know droids, to a certain extent, have free will, right?
Yes.
And something that's established sort of in the movies, but is more explored in novels and later comic books, is the more memories a droid accrues, the more like foibles in their personalities begin to manifest, and like individuality and personality begin to compound on each other if their memory isn't wiped regularly.
Right.
So that's why you can have like a spiffy little R2 in A New Hope, but not 3PO, because 3PO's memory is wiped, but R2's isn't after the prequels.
Right. Correct. As we've always talked about, R2 is one of the only people who has context for literally everything that's been in like the Star Wars saga.
He's been in every movie, right? I guess not Solo.
No, they don't, but they do sneak into Rogue One. Yeah. Well, and actually, Solo is the one that has some of the craziest stuff about droid politics. Of course.
Right, yeah. No, and that gets into, like, most droids don't question their existence, and the ones who haven't been wiped longer are the ones who do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because L3 throws a wrench into the whole thing.
And what a restraining bolt does is it makes it so a droid can't disobey whoever's giving them orders, basically.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of a robot shock collar to a certain extent, or beyond that, but right, where it's just like, yeah.
And so the idea of a droid without a restraining bolt who's still serving an organic is weird to Cligson.
Well, because we see Luke take the restraining bolts off of them.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, that's how R2 escapes the first time, but...
Right, yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot. And, like, it's something they can never really get into depth with without, like, bringing into question... And I mean, Solo even does this a little bit, so, like, people are thinking about this, where, like...
Oh, no, I mean, the litany of think pieces after Solo.
There's this whole, like... slave culture that is happening with droids that is unacknowledged in Star Wars.
Right. Yeah. Although, like, the thing about it is, like, I don't know about R2, but 3PO, that guy's not going to want to go off on his own. I don't think.
I don't know.
What's that guy going to do?
Yeah, and look, this is even further explored in a lot of the stuff that focuses around IG-88, which we'll get to down the road, but, like...
Yeah, of course,
whole, like, droid supremacist idea that, like, might be an undercurrent in the Star Wars universe that isn't really talked about.
Yeah.
This whole fear that, like, okay, if allowed to, like, develop on their own, droids would eventually turn into, like, the Geth from Mass Effect and rebel against their masters.
Well, and that could be that would be a cool idea for a Star Wars story somewhere down the road.
Maybe one that just happened as a Marvel crossover.
Could be.
But for now, these are just like the first little inklings of that here.
And this is all that is to say, this is why we don't normally talk about this stuff, because we'll be here for the next 80 episodes digging into the intricacies of it.
It's such like a moral quagmire of just like, okay, there's this wrinkle in Star Wars that if you start tugging at this thread, it goes on forever and raises so many questions about this universe.
Absolutely. And so basically what this story is saying is here's a world where it's like droids are free, right?
But then some droids choose to align themselves with galactic politics as opposed to being independent of all that. And we get this backstory for ZX3, who is apparently an old experimental Imperial droid meant to replace stormtroopers in like really inhospitable environments.
Right. So all right, so we're moving through Droid World, and yes, he gets his whole, which actually I do really actually like the character of ZX3, because that's a cool idea, right? Like this is the expendable droid.
Yeah, and that's why like his turn here in the next couple of pages is going to be a little frustrating for me.
Yeah, he's a cool idea for a droid, and then it's like, yeah, but we still need him to serve the functions of this plot. So
we get a mention of Tag Industries here, so this is a robot built by Tag Industries.
Well, this is another interesting wrinkle that he brings up in this. He goes, that guy seems pretty well made when we know Imperial droids are shit.
I mean, that's what Cligson's been saying the whole time. But this guy was made by Tag,
which is...
so...
Yeah. But that's just an interesting thing. Have we known that to be the case, that like Imperial droids are inherently lesser than?
No, but to be fair, in the Star Wars movies we've seen so far, we've seen maybe 2 Imperial droids the whole time. There's Dr. Ball.
Yeah,
they're not. probe droid?
I'm just saying, how bad can it be made if one of those droids got a medical degree?
And we're still
Seems like he's doing pretty well.
decades out from like K2SO and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yes.
And not even to mention the Dark Troopers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's that just struck me where I'm like, I've never heard anybody be like, "What's that Imperial droid?" Oh boy, real piece of crap, you know. Anyway, so 3PO. By the way, why is he writing out C3PO, SEE 3PO?
Yeah, I don't know. He seems like he got lazy halfway through.
Now be on your finest behavior, R2.
Yeah.
And he and 3PO is going like, maybe someday when we're done with the Rebel Alliance, we'll just get a condo here.
For someone who's Imperial made, he seems nice enough.
Yeah, that's why. Just such a weird.
But R2 wanders off as 3PO goes in to beat Cligson.
Yeah, and then of course, and I do like where he's just like, "Where's the other one?" And 3PO's just like, "Wait. Well, I guess that little scamp took off."
Oh, it seems as though I was nattering on and he took off.
It's sort of our dynamic. And yes, R2, meanwhile, is scampering about, scoping things out.
Yeah, because R2, of course, the smarter of the two, is just like, something's not right here.
Yeah. Yeah, one is the talkative one is not the brains of the operation,
Right.
is always their thing, right? And so he's like, I don't know about this. And so he's watching as basically this guy's like, as ZX3 is just like, perfect. This will all fall right into our plan that we've been working on the whole time,
Right,
baby.
because Cligson told him to, like, dump the Imperial Warbot into the droid hell in the center of this place. But it turns out he's just going to take it into a repair bay and say, like, look, you brought us exactly what we need to make a fully functional Warbot. We're going to take this place over.
Yeah, which is interesting. Why is that his opinion?
For the Empire is what we eventually get. This guy still serves.
That's right. Still like it's still like buried within his programming he is here for the Empire, right? So, but my God, what a long plan this guy's had.
Well, his plan is to build a killer droid and kill Cligson. I mean, it's pretty simple, honestly. Like, why?
It's not like that. It's like, this thing can't function. We can't put this thing back together, but it does have the one remaining part we need, which is basically the gun, right? Is what he says. Like,
yeah.
Oh, great, they brought us a cannon to put on a warbot that we've built, all but the gun on the head of it.
Basically.
A functioning weapon head. And R2's like, that's bad.
Yeah. We basically have ZX3 monologuing to the other droids. I do love some of the other droids. Like the one that's just basically looks like C-3PO but with a gun coming out of its chest.
That's how you know I'm a bad guy. I love I'm sorry, is that a conch droid up there with like a welding?
Yeah, gonk droid with a big welding gun.
Yeah. And then there's another one who's got like weird ostrich legs.
Yeah, the weird like chicken walker with, again, a gun face.
Well, because how else are we supposed to know they're dangerous? They're all basically just walking guns.
Just like Gen 1 Megatron.
Yes, just like Gen 1 Megatron. I will never forget that Megatron was a gun once.
That had to be wielded by
And so,
other
yeah.
Transformers.
The other thing I like is just how simple that is. They're just like, we can put this on our warbot. Turn the page. We've done it.
I mean, look, I love that this book isn't dicking around.
Yeah. And it's done. And then they're like, oh shit, that little astromech saw what we're up to. Kill it.
I love the angry 3PO, like the Metropolis robot with the gun for the chest. It's just like,
The smoking barrel coming out of his
looks
chest.
so angry.
My data system does not indicate that labor droids move so fast. So R2, once again, setting up why R2 is better.
He is performing outside of his function.
Yeah, it's always above and beyond with this guy. So yeah, they're like, And yes, man, yeah, ZX3 really is the Bond villain of droids.
Because he just will not stop monologuing.
The time to take over Droid World is now.
Why any droid would feel the need to clench their fist in like triumphant victory is beyond me.
For all our, with Warbot and put all our forces into motion. We built an evil droid.
Look, it is built by the Empire, so.
But this guy, I feel like this guy's ambition won't stop. He's going to overthrow the Emperor if you let him.
Somewhere in a lab, somebody came up to Silas Tag and said, "Sir, we're devoting a lot of time to this like fist clenching protocol. I don't feel like we need it. We need the fist clenching protocol."
No, that's a deal breaker, man. You can cut corners elsewhere. The fist clenching, that's got to be there. That's his whole thing.
How else are people supposed to know he's going to triumphantly take over some kind of world?
Yeah. Soon it will be mine.
So, meanwhile,
all right,
Threepio and Gligson are still talking to each other when R2 comes charging in, being like, something's wrong.
And this is interesting because this is coming after, of course, the weird, like, give peace a chance issue. We've got another guy who is going, hey man, both sides are terrible.
Yeah, both spread the taint of war to logical machines.
Yeah. Which is like, once again, okay, sure. Like, this book keeps skirting the issue of like, you're almost talking about like war on this, philosophical level, but also this is a comic book for children.
Well, because even Threepio is just like, look, there's a vast difference between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
Trust me, pal. Yeah. By the way, something maybe real people discussing politics need to learn. I'll just say.
But he's interrupted by R2-D2, who comes charging in, saying that shit's fucked. But what's this? It's ZX3 coming in with a gun welded to his chest.
That's right. Now I'm a gun too.
Everybody's a gun.
That laser cannon harness is unauthorized. You didn't apply for a permit.
Remove it before, and CX3's rejoinder, before someone gets hurt, as he's badooms Gligson.
He is a real bastard, man. Good lord. And yeah, I do love Gligson just exploding apart.
I mean, we'll learn pretty quickly here that this is effectively a Doom bot, but
yeah,
I do love seeing him explode like this.
It is great. It's once again, it's like, oh, there's where Infantino put his time in because this guy's going up.
We see limbs flying. We see his chest exploding. It's pretty good.
A little like
RoboCop, honestly.
Yeah. And then you got a couple other droids blasting away.
They're getting the blast shielding down. They've destroyed Gligson, like now weirdly intact when he's a smoking corpse on the ground.
And once again, yes, I know. Completely forgotten that we saw him blow apart, and then I guess he fell apart, and then everything came back together, but he's still dead. I don't know. But once again, the important foe has fallen. Without his mechanical body, which mocked our own, Gligson is no more. And then, not just one fist clench, both fists in the air in victory.
And now we will vanquish any who will still hold to his ways, who will not serve the Imperial cause. As the Empire rules the galaxy, Droid World is ours to command.
Man. And yeah, this crew, not nearly as badass as the Frank Miller rendering of them on the front.
I mean, I do love the gonk droid with the gun face.
Yeah. Is that also an R5 with a cannon coming
Everyone's
out of it?
got a gun on their chest. I love it.
Yeah, everyone is just like, this droid design plus gun.
Also, the flatbed truck droid now looks like a sphinx. I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, he's been getting more ornate looking throughout the whole
last time we
issue.
saw him, if we go back a couple of pages, he looks like a presidential bust on the front of this flatbed.
Yeah. He's like, hold on, let me switch out to my Egyptian headdress.
But yeah, in this page he looks like a sphinx. And then, so yeah, it's on
Also,
now.
nice to see a cameo from one of Brainiac's droids on the
Yeah,
to the left of
yeah,
the. Yeah, there he is. Nice to see him from the skull
yeah.
ship.
Well, look, I'm glad he's getting work.
Yeah, I know it's nice. Yeah, it's hard for these extras in comics.
Something I love about Brainiac as just like in concept is just like, what does his spaceship look like? Well, it looks like his head, but big.
Yeah, it fits. It's on brand. Ever on brand, that Brainiac. All right, so Droid World is ours. Oh no.
So now we're kind of back to the start of the issue. R2 and 3PO are running away. All the evil droids are chasing them.
And R2 or 3PO is like, I can't believe it. That guy killed his own master. Once again, not even going to get into that.
Yeah. Now we have the Warbot. Turns out the Warbot has a gun face. It also has pincer arms.
Of course, it's got to be the nastiest thing we can have.
But that
We're doomed, R2. Woo! There's the audience applauds because it's his catchphrase.
yeah.
He said,
Yes, running is an excellent idea, and this way has to be safer than, oh, this isn't really fair, not fair at all, as more of the tanks come rolling up on them.
Yep. And so yeah, and oh boy, there once again now they're running.
Yeah, and we get back to Robo-Hell. There's the chains, there's the fire, there's the weird, like, dangling magnets off of those chains.
Well, and keep an eye on those dangly magnets because that might just be R2's plan.
Yeah, because R2 drags 3PO off the edge, and then suddenly they fall up.
What? Magnetic grapples?
And they're kerclonked onto these magnetic grapplers as they escape the droids. The tank just doesn't have brakes and goes off into hell.
Ah, Christ, that's right. There were two things we forgot, a gun and brakes.
Well, we focused on giving everyone gun faces, and we forgot to give them brakes.
Oh, brakes would have been good. Damn it. Yeah, it just plunges into the fire below. And I like Clegson being like, good.
Yeah, because what's this? Upstairs, it's Clegson. Everybody, it's Clegson.
That was merely... Yeah. When's he going to get his spin-off?
Clegson
and then they're like, but didn't you die?
Is the Master Comm, like, wacky friend who comes over sometimes.
Yeah. I got a couple of hot dates down at the Regal Beagle. Yes, I did. This is the most Marvel Comics thing to me of just like, didn't you die? As a robot double, doesn't matter. Marvel loves that shit, man. You mentioned Doombot. It is always like, what's this? Dr. Doom has been... No, he's fine.
The moment you introduce the concept of an LMD, it's going to be abused.
Near constantly to this day.
How many...
Oh, that was an LMD.
One of my favorite Marvel runs, Avengers runs of the previous 5 years or so was Avengers AI. Super interesting book.
Oh, great.
But one of the characters who cropped up in that and has since cropped up in a couple of other books is a sentient Doombot who's trying to become his own man.
Absolutely. He's one of the coolest.
Yeah. I loved it when he showed up in the recent She-Hulk run of just like, look, I'm suing from I can't be held responsible for Dr. Doom's crimes.
Doombots, LMDs, and then, of course, Skrulls is the other big one. They killed... Oh, never mind. It was a Skrull.
That's fine.
Yeah, we're good. And we never cease to be amazed by the depth of Imperial corruption, sir.
Yeah, because it turns out that while Clegson tried to scrub ZX3 of his Imperial programming, he just couldn't quite get it all.
You hate to see it.
Because he says, in this case, you're right, 3PO. It was deeply ingrained and subtly hidden. And by the time my foolish human pride admitted the possibility, something dramatic was needed to draw ZX3 out. Bringing 2 rebel droids here seemed likely to make him act.
Yeah, I just love the idea of, I'm sorry, the evil was just too deep in his program.
I mean, I think that's a perfectly respectable comic book reason.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The evil was just too
'Cause
deep.
we
I don't
saw,
know what to tell you. It's just too deep.
look, we saw IG-11 go from assassin droid to nanny droid,
That's true.
and that so maybe Queel is just better at this than
I mean,
Clixon.
there's a lot of things that Cligson could be better at.
Yeah, Clixon's not great.
No.
I also like that he's just like, I hope this wouldn't happen, but I was also kind of ready for it to happen
Also,
too.
he planned on bringing 2 rebel droids here? How could he possibly predicted this?
Because literally nothing he did got them here. It was all like circumstantial, wasn't it?
Yeah, because, like,
They found the thing, then they accidentally broke it, which led to that guy suggesting going to Cligson.
yeah, because Cligson says, Threepio asks, like, we were just bait, and Cligson says, not quite true, friend. ZX3 wasn't the only one with a warbot in need of cannibalized parts. My work drone cruise on your machine after ZX3 finished, so now he has a warbot too.
Everybody's got a warbot.
Everyone's got a warbot. This particular warbot's gonna go fucking apeshit, though.
Yep. And this new warbot, turn the page. It's gonna kill everybody.
So it blows up the ZX3's warbot. It's killing all these other droids. This is a cool page. I love this page.
Can I say also good on? Here's a compliment, Archie. Good one. My new favorite sentence: an Armageddon of robot against robot.
Everyone's got a gun for a chest or an arm or a face, and they're all just going at each other.
Yeah, dude, I want to watch this animated series. This looks like an '80s like Saturday morning, something in the Transformers vein.
Yeah, I would say this is probably closer to something like Dino Riders, personally, but
Well, it does have a bit of a Dino Riders vibe to it, something I know is very near and dear to both of us. And by the way, they're resurrecting so many things. Bring back Dino Riders. We're available. I'm already saying. We could write that shit in a weekend, man. I'm telling you.
I feel like the opportunity is there to do something compelling with a message of like environmental conservatism and
yeah.
I feel it's rich, fertile soil in which to tell stories.
No, I'm not being facetious. Seriously, I think that actually is the kind of thing that needs a reboot. Yeah. It's an idea that's very cool that was maybe not executed with perfect precision once before. Much like aforementioned Brave Star.
Ooh, Brave Star. Yeah. Well,
give me a modern, gritty Brave Star.
But anyway, yeah, robots are killing robots. It's an Armageddon.
It's great. I like the one just getting picked up and crushed in the pincer arm.
The Imperial Warbot, I think, is a clear forefather of what's the X1, the like evil R2D2 from the Dr. Aphra comics.
Oh yeah.
It's 000 and X1.
Oh, I mean, Dr. Aphra, what a gift that's given us in terms of droids.
Oh yeah, especially like evil droids.
Evil droids are the best.
000 is fucking terrifying.
000, he's the best. I love it.
And fluent in 6 million forms of torture.
Yeah, he's the best little sociopathic murder droid. Oh, I love him. All right, and yet, in time, even the most awesome of battles must end. All right, Goodwin, it's a droid book. Calm down.
No, he's not going to calm down. He's going to make the cyborg man cry.
For it came with this.
But at such a price, my friends. Such a terrible waste. As Cligson weeps.
For war has come even to Droid World. God. And then we're just back on the blockade runner. And they're just like, by the way, misprint there, this schmatic.
The schmatic.
The schmatic.
Yeah.
Take a look at this schmatic.
The schmatic, yeah, Jesus. Luke is suddenly back with a completely different head.
Yep. He finally looks like Mark Hamill at the end of this thing. And it is just like, well, hope you two had a fun adventure. We got everything we need. Anyway, on to the next adventure. Am I right?
3PO's just like, That means a great deal, Master Luke, but I can't help but feeling bad about Cligson. The events on Droid World left him more determined than ever not to be drawn into further human conflict.
And it's just like, but that probably won't be the case. Oh, wait! There he goes!
Last page. Again, Luke's head being replaced suddenly.
He had it right for one panel.
I don't know if Infantino drew that last page.
You know what? I agree. It looks more like Al Williamson.
Especially with like Cligson's face and like the proportions on the bodies. Like it looks totally
all
different.
of it. You're right in that all of a sudden there's much more detail. That is weird.
Yeah, and then we go back to Infantino on this last page with Luke looking like a startled I from Madagascar. He's like a terrified lemur.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. You know, there's no credit or anything to anybody on that, but
but Cligson turns out he's having the same idea as Threepio. It's just like, fuck this, I'm out. And apparently the moon can fly.
yeah, I know. I just like that where it's just like, oh no, it's so sad that the Empire will find him. Oh wait, it has engines on it. There it goes.
I must go. My planet needs me.
And to the thunder of monstrous engines, Droid World moves. Away from the planet it orbits, away from the galactic war Cligson wants no part of, and away where the Empire can never find it. What is the place the Empire can never find? Because literally, we were in another dimension in that last issue and the Empire got there. So I don't know where it is. Please tell me more about where this guy knows that the Empire can't get to.
Galaxy Thrawn's trapped in. He's gonna go hop on a space whale.
Oh
and
yeah,
fly
that's
away.
right. Nobody ever got out there. Yeah. This guy, he just gets swallowed by a space whale neck. Womp. Oh, I guess it'll be fine.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, great. Yeah, okay, sure. God.
Yeah, that was our droid issue. I mean, look,
Some good ideas that just will not be executed. Interestingly,
yeah, and we had the whole last issue
refuses,
like talking about the complexities of like not wanting to be a part of the war, and this issue does it in such a more like ham-fisted and not thinking about it sort of way.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that it's kind of the same story, but not as they're each poor in different directions. One is going a little too philosophical, maybe, and then one is not bothering to really explore ideas at all.
Yeah, well, and one is a extra-dimensional space genie, and one is a droid world.
Well, all I know is that next week, Princess Leia will play a game of diplomatic daring do against Darth Vader.
Yeah. Again, I've read ahead a little bit, so I know what's coming.
Yeah, you read ahead. I really do just read, so I never know what's coming. But I will say, I read that and went, what?
You'll keep saying what, John, because
yeah, I have no doubt.
The next issue, like, if you thought there's two things we know are like weird stumble steps that Star Wars tends to make, and that's droid-focused stories and the overabundance of political minutia at times.
Oh, what? In Star Wars? Never.
So we had the first, and prepare yourself for the second.
Yeah. I have no doubt. Hey, boy, yeah. And also just the idea of like a Leia Vader confrontation sounds completely insane to me at this point in the story.
What you love seeing Darth Vader do? Claim diplomatic immunity.
Check it out, man. Diplomatic immunity. Yeah, if only Danny Glover was here, though, too. It's been revoked.
You know what's great? When Darth Vader has an attaché case that is exempt from port authorities. Those are great.
Sorry, you can't open that. That's diplomatic. That's my diplomatic pouch.
That's literally what it's called in the next issue, so strap in.
Yeah, hold on, Stormtrooper. Let's make sure these diplomatic plates are on before we take off from the airport.
God, you're joking, but it's not.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. We had that a little bit with that Luke. Where was that planet where Vader showed up and basically like they both had to make presentations?
Yeah.
The circle. Like, what is happening? Yeah, insane. So I think the comic is Vader politician more than he ever is in any movie. There are plenty of bad guy Imperial like diplomat people that you could have. Vader's not that guy.
Unfortunately, here's the thing, though, John. You got to remember, we've only had the 2 movies. So, as of Empire Strikes Back, Vader does kind of become diplomat guy when he takes over Cloud City. The view has changed. Pray I don't alter it further.
Yeah, his diplomacy is like, I'll kill you if you don't do what I'm gonna. It's not really diplomacy.
Diplomacy at the end of a lightsaber, sure, but
oh yeah, well he mentions that, which is from episode 2, is it, where they talk about that negotiations with a lightsaber? Yeah. That line stuck out to me. Well, of course, if you want more from us, which why wouldn't you? You can head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.podbean.com/punchup. Once again, that's patreon.podbean.com/punchup for cool exclusive bonus content, as well as helping out support all the shows here on the Punch Up Entertainment Network.
Yes, indeed. And one of the best ways to support the show is to come check us out over on YouTube, youtube.com/punchupentertainment. There you can watch this show. One of the best ways to watch and consume the show, because you can
it's the preferred way,
the comic along with us and see our beautiful faces despite my somewhat haggard existence at the moment. But I think it's matching a haggard comic book. So.
Normally, Gorgoni's the hunk on
I mean,
the show
look,
here,
we all know I'm the pretty boy. But while you're there, please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on droid ethics in Star Wars, please. I want an essay or two.
God, we're gonna get some essays down there, exactly. But yes, that will do it. I think
it will indeed do it for this week. As always, I have been Mike Gorgoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And may the panel be with you.